Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's Monday, and that means it's time for the Wrestling Inc. WWE Raw Monday Night After Show, and have we got a good one for you. We've got contract signings, sit-down interviews, and a broken arm. But before we get into all that, allow me to introduce the fellas. I'm Jack Farmer. I'm here with Justin LaBar and Jimmy Korderas. Jimmy, how you doing today?
Doing pretty good. It was a holiday Monday up here in Canada, and I enjoyed it, despite doing some spring cleanup inside the house. So trying to catch up on that stuff.
Yeah, our holiday is this coming weekend. Justin, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Weather is staying warm and consistent, and my Baltimore Orioles baseball team is the number 2 team in the league right now, so that's a great feeling. I don't know. I'm taking a little. I'm gonna get out of Dodge here in a few days, so I'm doing good.
And I'm seeing Carrie Johnson saying I sound like in the bottom of a well. I am in a place I don't normally record from. It is my house is getting worked on, so I'm in a room that's very echoey. I apologize for that, and I'm getting some loud mic.
Now you're too low.
Now I'm too low. Right there.
Right
is there good?
Right there.
That good? All right. So there you go. Sorry about that. My yes was too powerful, I think. I messed up the microphone. But in any case, we got a good show. Let's jump right into it. Let's talk about some news as everyone settles in. And as everyone's getting in here, remember, like, comment, share, subscribe, 5-star reviews, all that good stuff. AEW is reportedly struggling to sell advance tickets for the upcoming Collision dates. According to Dave Meltzer on Wrestling Observer Radio, the Newark, New Jersey show on July 22nd has reportedly moved somewhere around 3,500 tickets, with Toronto, Ontario, Canada on June 24th selling around 1,600 tickets for the show. That will take place one day before Forbidden Door 2. And the company is also holding a taping on Thursday, June 29th, with the show reportedly selling less than 600 tickets so far. Not the kind of numbers you'd expect, but Justin, this is it doesn't surprise me because I don't know what Collision's supposed to be.
Well, exactly. It's an unknown act. Obviously the big elephant in the room is it's supposed to be anchored around CM Punk. That's yet to be announced by AEW. Maybe that changes this Wednesday, but as of now, you don't know what you're getting. And quite frankly, if you are a fan of AEW, then if you follow AEW, then you probably know, okay, the other show they have besides Dynamite is this thing Rampage, which they probably didn't realize it's not something that is must see. So without any matches or talent announced and advertised, and it's also a weird time for AEW because, like you said, Double or Nothing will have been over by the time Collision debuts. Forbidden Door's right around there, but Forbidden Door, obviously, A, we don't know any matches, and B, you're bringing talent from other companies. So, is that a draw? Is that a factor? Are they even on Collision leading up to it? We don't know. You're still kind of a little bit of ways away from the Wembley show, which I'm sure as the storylines progress and we start to see what's happening and we're building towards that, that might uptick some ticket sales throughout the summer. But yeah, I mean, there's not you're literally going on the novelty of this is a new show, and that's just not enough to move any. Look, when they launched Rampage, it was here in Pittsburgh, I believe. Yeah, it was here in Pittsburgh, and they did it to where they did a little bit of residency that week. They did Dynamite here, and then they turned around and did Rampage again. It was the first time Dynamite. It's the first time AEW was expanding, so there was high hope that maybe this is another Dynamite. It's kind of like the hope for Rampage here in Pittsburgh when they did it in August of whatever year that was. It was kind of the hope that it is now for Collision, which is okay. This is gonna be another secondary, another A show, so to speak. But they did it here in Pittsburgh. They put Britt Baker all over because she's from here, and so they don't have that same thing yet. They are trying to do it, but launching supposedly Chicago if they have Punk. But that's the big if. That's the elephant in the room. So I'm not surprised that they're having a little bit of struggle because what reason is there to run out and camp out for tickets?
Yeah, and Jimmy, on top of that, and I agree with Justin, everything he just said, it doubles or triples because they keep saying there's going to be big announcements about it, but then don't say anything. So I can imagine if I was in one of those markets, I'd be like, well, I want to wait until you make the announcement. What is the announcement going to be? And so this is one of those situations where the mystery, I think, is hurting it more than helping it.
No, absolutely. They're past the point now where they're the new kid on the block, and people are interested to see how they, we talk about the Wembley show. This is their first venture to the UK, if I'm not mistaken, and that's where the interest is. People have seen the product for a few years now, and now this is their first chance to see it live. So there's something there. Now you've got to give them something to see. The fans here in North America, pretty much all across North America, including up here in Canada, because we're seeing some ticket sales up here in Toronto, not quite where I think they expected it to be. Like Justin said, they need to have more on the plate to give the audience. You have to talk them into the building. You have to give them something to see, want to see. And they haven't done that. You can't go on the cachet now that, hey, we're the up and coming kids on the block and you got to come in and see us. What are we going to see? That's what the question is right now.
And to add one more thing, everything Jimmy said, I agree with as well. To add one more thing too, let's keep something in mind. So when they launched Rampage here, they did it live, and then I think they did it live for that famous one in Chicago, that's where Punk first made his AEW debut. But otherwise, Rampage, which airs primarily on a late night spot on Friday night, gets taped. So the fans that go to Dynamite on Wednesday get to get the Rampage content. They're doing Collision live, so that means you're asking for people to come out and pay to come out on a Saturday night. A very, that you're competing against a lot of things. School's out over the weekend, so for all ages, young into college into adult, you're competing with Saturday night. You get 2 nights without having to wake up for work. Traditionally, you get Friday night, you get Saturday night. So you're going to these towns competing against whatever's going on in the bars and concert venues and sporting events in those towns. So I think that's another thing is doing live. Again, when everybody goes back to, they're back on, it's a Saturday night show. We haven't seen a live Saturday night show since, WCW did, Saturday night on 605. Again, that was done on a sound stage. And I don't even know if it was all live. I think they taped some chunks of it for periods of years. So, it was done on a sound stage where there was like 100 people. It wasn't like they were trying to sell out Saturday night on, a 10,000 person arena. So these are just a lot of things that nobody's really talking about that they're going to have to contend with, it being live on a Saturday.
Yeah, and you're right. Saturdays are tough. I think a lot of people think, to Justin's point, I can stay out late and I don't have to wake up early tomorrow, but that means everything is there. I mean, new movies are out. There's, of course, sports. There's TV. There's being with the family. There's a lot of things you're competing with that aren't even TV necessarily. And I think this is where things like Dark and Elevation may have hurt them. Is if they never had those things, you could say, hey, but it's more of this product you love. But we've already been given so many hours of this product that we love that it doesn't feel special to get more of this product that we love. They've sort of beaten us over the head with the amount of matches and shows and stuff that it doesn't feel quite as special to add more time. So they're going to need to do something to make this feel different as opposed to just another wrestling show.
Yes, and one more thing about this, there's talk, is there rumors out there, is this going to be similar to a brand split where, Collision's going to have its own dedicated roster versus, Dynamite having their own dedicated roster. The big trap here is if they do something like that, this isn't about, hey, we're going to do a hard, divide of the roster, where people stay on their own brand. I hope they don't do that, but if they do it, don't do it because we want to prove we can do it right and the other guys didn't do it right. They don't listen to their own, edict about talent staying on their specific brands. Just concentrate on telling stories, giving guys TV time that need and girls TV time that need the TV time that haven't been getting it on Wednesday nights. That's what it's about. Telling some stories. Now that you have more time, you don't have to rush everything.
Mm-hmm. And, we talk about stories and shows and things like that. Some interesting news, some bad news and some good news came out in New Japan this weekend. New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong women's tournament winner was changed on the fly after Mercedes had an injury. The winner of last night's New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong women's championship tournament finals match at Resurgence between Mercedes and Willow Nightingale was reportedly changed on the fly. Dave Meltzer indicated on Wrestling Observer Radio that Mercedes was supposed to win the tourney and become the inaugural title holder. PWI's Mike Johnson also claimed that and she was due to win, and that an audible was called, not audible, was called during the title match. The CEO allegedly broke her ankle during the historic encounter, and she was visibly struggling, and Nightingale ended up getting the win. So I say bad news. Obviously, injuries are always terrible, but congratulations to Willow for getting the win. And I believe, I could be mistaken on this, but I believe I saw somewhere it was the first ever women's main event for a New Japan Pro Wrestling show. So that, if that is the case, and I'm not 100% sure it is, but if it's true, very cool that happened as well. Jimmy, have you ever been in the ring when a change was made mid-match?
Well, I've been in, trying to think of stuff specifically. The one that always comes to mind to me was something that wasn't changed because of injury or something like that. It was a tag team match between the APA and, oh my goodness,
Public Enemy?
Public Enemy, the old ECW, where I went to the ring. It was a table. They were going to put one of the Public Enemy guys through the table. That's what I was told. That's the finish. Here we go. I go to the ring. Here comes Public Enemy to the ring. But apparently what happened was one of the Public Enemies turned to JBL and said, oh, by the way, we're not doing the table spot. And then just their music hit and they went to the ring and left them standing there. And, Ron apparently said to John, what'd he say? He said, they're not doing the table spot. Oh, they ain't. And here they come, and it just turned into a melee. And I was at a loss because the finish was supposed to be going through the table, call for the bell, that sort of thing. And it just turned into a mugging. If anybody remembers it, it was a nasty beating. And Public Enemy took one hell of a ride. And eventually it was like in my ear. And you may want to ring the bell and call this at any time now. And I did. I rang the bell, but it didn't stop anything. They just kept going. But that's the one that comes to mind. But I believe, if I'm not mistaken, in this particular situation was it Long Beach, right?
Yeah.
There was a pinfall attempt where Moné did not kick out, but the referee didn't count 3.
Well, I have a follow-up question for you, Jimmy. In that case, if the wrestler doesn't kick out, do you count 3, even if that's not what was supposed to happen? It's on the wrestler to kick out.
Yes, and we've been told, especially in a blatant situation like that, we were told back in the day that if they don't kick out, that's on them, not on you. And of course, the referee being, for lack of a better term, lower on the totem pole, let's put it that way, will get all kinds of heat for it, probably. Hey, I kicked out. No, you didn't. I had the count. I was in no position. But you would get praised by the office, let's put it that way.
And Jimmy, do you remember where that famous match was?
Hey, that was in your neck of the woods, wasn't it?
I didn't live here in Pittsburgh at the time, but yes, that was Pittsburgh. That was that was the Igloo.
Yes. Wow. Great memory.
Man. Well, for you, maybe not for a Public Enemy.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what the funny part was? I'm like thinking, oh no, when they get to the back, I thought, what's going to happen? So APA's waiting there. Public Enemy comes to the back. They shake their hands. They say thank you, like they do, like after every match. And they walked out and weren't seen again.
Justin, any thoughts on that? I mean, injuries happening. It's always unfortunate. I always try to look at the bright side. I think that this has got to be a incredible moment for Willow Nightingale, winning that match, becoming a champion, getting a win over Mercedes. Maybe not the way it was originally planned, but I mean, still a big night for her. And congratulations to her one way or the other. But any just thoughts on that situation?
Well, I mean, you're positive Ali there. It's great for Willow Nightingale, but I mean, who's the bigger investment for New Japan of what they just made, her or whatever their deal was with Mercedes? So, I mean, I'm glad that they were able to successfully call an audible and get a finish that they can live with, given the situation now. Versus, Mercedes limping through to win, only then to have to vacate it, whatever, like a day later when everybody realizes what's going on. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. This one's really been sitting with me. Obviously she's got a lot of things in her brand going on. She's not just pro wrestling. She does, appearances at the cons, and I know she's dabbled in Hollywood and I think music and other. So I mean, obviously she's still got stuff to do and elevate her brand, but the big to do was, when is she going to resurface in the pro wrestling world? She did, and now that's going to be on hold for months now. I don't know. I have yet to. I don't know, and I don't know if the injury is just bad luck, bad timing in terms of like bad. When I mean bad luck, bad timing in the when it happened in the match and the sequence. I don't know if some people subscribe to the theory of it's ring rust. How much has she been in the ring in the last year? How much training in a ring has she done on her downtime? She's a veteran. So I don't know. I don't know what if that's still part of her gym regimen. I don't know. So there's a lot of things that I'm really swirling around with, but it's unfortunate. Yeah, it really is.
Did they say what actually happened? I don't think I actually saw what it was. Is it a broken ankle or something?
I believe it is a broken ankle.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think last I saw is they thought that's what it was, but I didn't see an actual confirmation. So that's unfortunate. Get well soon.
Yes,
obviously. Let's get into this episode of Raw, though. Let's talk about some WWE wrestling, some Monday Night Raw. Before we do, though, as always, I'd like to give a shout out to the folks in the chat: Mark Smith, Tuck Graff, Ricky Zaldivar, Dylan Matthews, Justine showing up, Huffman Elite Training. I feel like I haven't seen you in the past few episodes, Huffman. Good to see you. Nelly Belly 420, Deadpool Party. I haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you back here. Adam Staples and stalking you with the dog emoji every time. Good to see you, Justin Check, and everyone else. Thank you guys so much for coming through. Always appreciate you guys coming through. Like, comment, share, subscribe. So all that good stuff. Share it with your friends. 5-star review. Don't be the person that listens to this show for 20 years and then leaves a 1-star review, because I have an echoey room one time, folks. Give us a 5-star review. Let's start the show. This one's all over the place, so we're going to jump around a little bit, but we should be able to keep things in order fairly simply. Oh, I will say, too, we got a super chat, Mia Lee. We will get to yours when we talk about that tag team match. So make sure that you stick around, because we will get to that. We start the show. I'm going to start here with just a quick segment. Paul Heyman saying he had nothing to do with Brock Lesnar's attacking Cody. Says that it'll probably happen again at Night of Champions, and Roman and Solo will be the tag champs also. In a lot of ways, I don't really understand why Paul Heyman was booked tonight, but he kind of sold the show, the PLE for later in the week. I want to get your thoughts on Paul Heyman and his moment here, but also just for funsies, because we won't get to talk about Paul Heyman much once this brand split solidifies. Justin, who's the next person to challenge for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship?
Ooh, so who's next up for Roman? That's a great question. Obviously it appears it's going to have to be somebody on the Friday brand, right? Because that's the whole reason, right, of this new world title is to be for Raw. I don't know. I mean, so what do we have? We have Money in the Bank coming up, and then after that it's SummerSlam. So, it's hard because I think the big thing dangling there is like, when does I'm gonna say this? I'm gonna say it's probably something that Cody still is gonna be forever lingering out there. I know we're gonna talk about a lot of Cody, but I can't see them going back to it that quickly. So I'm gonna say I think where the money's at and where the stories are at, it's somebody from the bloodline. Whether it's Solo or one of the Usos, I think I'm trying to go through the new SmackDown roster quickly as I'm live here, thinking we're live.
Yeah, we got Lashley and Santos are two people Baby Ice is
yeah, but I mean maybe maybe if they want to have Roman, Money in the Bank's a hell of a draw. If they want to have Roman in a singles title match for Money in the Bank, maybe something like that, something that again, you just build around, but it's like it's an obvious Roman's retaining.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess I'm fast forwarding to the next big one, which would then be SummerSlam. Again, I think where the story is at, I think the money in the story is at somebody in the bloodline. But it could be anybody. It could be Solo if Solo was to all of a sudden not be the fierce protector for Roman, and it could be either Uso. It could be both Usos. It could be all three. Maybe Roman finds himself in a fatal four with his entire family. I mean, I think that the story is so rich, it could get to that point.
We could just do an elimination chamber, all bloodline members. Because there's a couple of them still on the indies they could pull up to fill in the other two. But any thoughts on Paul Heyman, Jimmy? Again, this was kind of its own segment here, but any just thoughts on it? A lot didn't happen, but I always like to get your opinion.
No, it's just Paul Heyman is a great seller of storylines and stuff like that, and he's a great promo. He gets people's attention, and it's nice. He made things feel important. That whole, starting it off. Well, first thing I'd like to tell you is I had nothing to do with that. Now it plants a seed in everybody's mind. Hey, why would he even mention that? So now people are thinking, ooh. Has he still got some contact with Brock Lesnar because there was a history there? And then as far as going into the other stuff that with the match coming up at the Night of Champions, the tag team match, and you're going to have new tag team champions and the whole bit. He's just a great seller of the product. He's great at, getting people interested and motivated, and having KO and Sammy come out and him disappearing and not showing how where he left. It just worked. It worked.
And it was also good to have him because remember, as Jimmy said, he's a great pipe man. So this is your last live chance to promote the PLE because Friday SmackDown's already been taped. So this is like your last live chance, and Paul Heyman's wonderful to go out there and just give the most current and updated pitch.
He is the best salesman. Because you say selling the show, not in like the pro wrestling sense, but just in the general, like you're selling tickets and buys. I mean, I always say he could sell me on a phone book, just like reading it. I'd be like, oh, dang, I got to get this phone book today. I could Google numbers, but this phone book sounds incredible. Speaking of Brock, though, and you're right, Jimmy, I like that you're talking about how maybe there is something there with Paul and Brock. But Brock, he was just a beast today, as usual. We started the show with Brock just beating the snot out of Cody Rhodes and hitting his arm with a keg. Then later, Brock says if Cody can't make it to Night of Champions, he'll issue an open challenge. Cody comes out anyways in a sling, and his arm gets torqued even more by Brock Lesnar. We don't know how bad the damage is, but Pierce is saying it's, quote, mangled later on. And we end the show, and I thought it really caught me off guard. I was kind of checking out before we get this backstage segment, which really pulled me in. Triple H makes his return to TV, and he tries to talk Cody Rhodes out of it and say, look, man, you're hurt. You don't have to prove you're tough. And Cody says, what would you do? What have you done? And Triple H just nods and accepts it. Jimmy, this was the thread throughout the whole show, and I am spellbound. We could talk about how WrestleMania was supposed to end or whatever, how Brock versus Cody started, whatever. But I'm hooked on this story right now. They've done it for me. I can't answer for everything that happened before, but I am very eager to see what happens at Night of Champions with Cody Rhodes and Brock Lesnar. What say you?
No, I am as well. It's very interesting that they chose. Yes, it was a thread throughout the entire show, but I was a little bit surprised.
There he is.
Oh,
you froze for a second, Jimmy.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just a little surprised that this ended the show. It's just because there's so much being made of the tag team match, and I thought with Sami Zayn and stuff like that, ending the show the way they did, with this showing how important this story is, and now it's putting a question in your mind: is this match going to end the pay-per-view? What is it? You got the World Heavyweight Championship match, which we'll talk about later. You've got the tag team title match coming up. But this, seems to be on the tip of everybody's tongue and curiosity factor and in their brain. So I think they did a really good job of getting people interested. Now you're questioning, people are thinking, well, Cody's going to end up going over to tell the story of this, overcoming hard times, but now they have an out and could, extend the story even further and extend his rivalry with Brock even further. This could end up, let's say it ends up at, SummerSlam where they have one more match, and in this match, if Cody does not defeat Brock Lesnar, he has to retire or something along those lines. And that's overcoming the hard times or something along those lines.
I will say, if Cody doesn't take off his jacket at Night of Champions and have just a totally purple arm, I'm out. I'm not interested anymore. I got to see purple now, Cody.
It'll be wrapped.
Purple.
It'll be wrapped.
Justin, I want your thoughts on this, and also a few comments that came through here on the chat I want to throw at you here. I lost him here in the chat. Baby Ice. Brock broke Cody's arm the way the Horseman broke Dusty's arm. Interesting call. And then JT098 says, we're getting Triple H versus Cody for the throne at SummerSlam. I would love your thoughts on this story they're telling, and then also those comments.
Well, to those comments, a good callback to history. And look, if Triple H did not have the medical scares that he did a year and a half, 2 years ago, absolutely, you would probably get a Triple H versus Cody match at some point at a major PLE. But I think truly we're not going to be seeing Triple H doing any bumping anytime soon. But look, Jimmy's right. He gives him an out. This is a story weaving, weave through the whole night. Just more of the mountain to climb for Cody. But not being a whiny baby face, not being a whiny white bread baby face. He's getting testy with everybody. I don't want your damn medical help. He's pushing people around. So he's got to show that fire. We can't. So I thought that was good. And it does give them an out because he could beat Brock and it's this miraculous win, right? Another win against Brock, against all odds. They could do it's a triple main event. So depending on where they put it on the card, it could not have a finish. He could be in a submission and just do the pass out thing or some kind of a please stay down, and the ref calls it because of discretion. So maybe Brock wins in the record books, but Cody did not get pinned or actually submit. So you protect him, and yet we got to have another match, the rubber match. Or Brock does beat him. Cody finally just breaks, but it's like, look at him. The guy's arms down, falling. So they really did give themselves some options here. And then look, the usage of Triple H, since being in his position, other than to come out and actually just make some, rah, we are WWE, he's not really inserted himself in storylines or anything. So this was a rare but significant use to have him, who everybody kind of everybody knows subplot here. He is the real boss. So there's that gravitas there. The same way when you would see Vince in a storyline, it gave gravitas because he actually is the boss. So there's that subtext there. But then there's also the fact that he is a Hall of Famer. He is a guy who's come back from quad tears and all the crazy things he's done. So there is a credibility there of the guy in the suit. And so there's a certain thing there of him talking, look, Cody, I've been down that road. Don't make the same mistakes as me. Just live to fight another day. You want to lose your career, and that's all believable. I mean, no disrespect, because I know that he also was an in-ring performer. This would have not had as much weight to it if stand-in authority figure Adam Pearce comes in and does this. And again, I know Adam Pearce had a wrestling career, and I'm not trying to knock his, but Triple H obviously was far more accomplished and far more on the global stage. So it has the gravitas that Triple H is doing this. I thought it was well done tonight. I thought everything they hit with the Cody and Brock stuff really hit a mark.
I'm so glad you mentioned the Vince McMahon thing, because I was kind of thinking that myself. I mean, Vince is a different animal as well, so I'm not saying it's the exact same, but you're right. When he came out, there was this moment like, ooh, this got real. This is a very serious thing. And I think you're right, obviously, because of who he is and his position in the company, but also even on character. People bully Adam Pearce all the time. No one bullies Triple H when he says something. So I think even in the world of TV, Triple H means a lot more. And so very cool to add it. Just one of those little special things you throw in there that makes this seem so much bigger. And a perfect example of sometimes if you don't have someone on TV all the time, it makes it so much better when they are on TV.
And it provides them an option Saturday to where who knows what happens, who knows what, again, all the scenarios I just threw out there, the drama of what this match gets to, and the whole stay down. Maybe Triple H again comes out with the headset around. And he's like, just stay down. This is done. Like, again, comes out, Jim throws the towel. I mean, so the fact that they ended tonight with Triple H being the final try to be the final word of reason with Cody, that could be a significant foreshadowing to what they try to do Saturday.
Yeah, I'm super excited for that one. We got another matchup that I thought was a fun one. Ricochet versus Bronson Reed. I thought it was a great story within the match that they told. Ricochet just seeming like a rapid fire wrestler, bouncing around, hitting all sorts of offense, but Reed just sort of being unstoppable and absorbing it and hitting these big moves. Ends with Reed getting the win. Justin, we've been, I feel like I have been too, but you definitely have been on the Bronson Reed bandwagon for some time now. Where do you want to see Reed's next like real rivalry come up? Like, who do you want it to be? What are you thinking? What's next for him?
I don't have a person. I like these little, short things of just, a week or two, him just getting out there having matches. I think, God, he's got to be an obvious one to qualify for Money in the Bank, right? I'm not saying he needs to win Money in the Bank. It might still be early for that. I think he could still use a year just getting a loop around the shows and getting some more work. But I think, and they've done some vignettes. We need more of his personality, more of his background. But I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of the airport tests and size and things you can't teach. And then I'm even more impressed when there's size and things you can't teach, and they do things that people of their size aren't supposed to do and move around like him. I mean, if this guy, if this was 1995, 1996 WWF, this guy'd be managed by Jim Cornette, and he'd be in the main event of every house show against Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, and he'd kill it every single night. He's just got that. He's got a bit of an old school flair to him that I just love. I'm a fan. Yeah.
I love too how he just drags people over to that corner he likes to use to hit the tsunami with, so it looks good on camera. He doesn't. He's not even subtle. He just grabs them by their arm and drags them where he wants them and hits the move. Right. I love it. It's just so like, I'm going to hit my move and I'm going to hit you right here with it. Right. By the way,
it makes him look that much more dominant.
Yeah, it's not like he's just seeing like, oh shoot, I have an opportunity. He's like, no, I'm going to drag you over here. I'm going to hit my move. Jimmy, where's Braun Strowman?
And that's the question. Is he possibly next on the list for someone like a Bronson Reed? And there's you look at two big guys like that going at it, and if you want to elevate Bronson Reed, like you said, Justin said, maybe in a match to qualify for Money in the Bank, there's another type of match you could. Sorry, it sounds like I'm getting off topic here, but there's where you can have those two clash and kind of eliminate each other from the match, or it's an out for both of them. Because you would think that they would both dominate in a Money in the Bank match with whoever they're in the ring with. But it's got to be next on the list to kind of avenge his tag team partner, so to speak. And can you imagine if Bronson Reed does manage to squeak out a win of some sort versus someone like a Braun Strowman? And I know people say, but come on, they're going to, set Braun Strowman back. How much more can you set him back? He's in a tag team right now. You know what I mean? So maybe that would be something to elevate him to, another level.
And, people talk about people getting set back or whatever. I always say half the people got to lose every episode, I mean, you can maybe work around it, but do some things. But at the end of the day, half the people got to take an L. So,
but that's the wonderful thing about pro wrestling. Yeah. Like in actual sports. Yeah, you're right. Half the teams playing tonight are going to lose. So, whatever. But in pro wrestling, that's the beautiful thing. You could have, let's say you have 6 matches on the card. So that means, okay, that's six people or 6 teams are going to have to lose tonight. But here's the thing. If you book things right and properly and within context and all the things, 12 people could still have walked out of the night elevated or as Jimmy likes to say, gotten over without going over. You just because you lost doesn't mean that you lost. That's the beautiful thing with pro wrestling, is that it doesn't mean that half the locker room's walking out sour-faced because they didn't win. Sometimes you can do more good for your career not having won that match. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about pro wrestling, and it's why it's so important to do it right and to book it right.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Stone Cold lost that match with Bret Hart, and that seemed to work out just fine for the fella. Tyler Manning, by the way, says just got home from the show. Let us know who got the biggest reactions overall. Who were the standouts to you actually in the arena? I would love to know that. we got a series of videos of Seth Rollins. We continue the sit-down interview with Rollins. He says that he loves Roman Reigns, but he doesn't like Roman Reigns, which is a great line. Then says that Reigns is taking opportunities from everyone and continues to say that he wants to be a champ so that we can forget about Reigns and finally say it's a chance to make something really special. Justin, is this... to me, watching this very much sounded like a play to eventually get to a title versus title, Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns kind of underlying story here. Is that what we're getting, or you're shaking your head no?
God, I hope not. We just went through all the all the effort to split everything.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think... I mean, look, first off, it's hard to do a sit-down interview and do like this retrospective of Seth's career and not mention Roman Reigns, given how closely they are linked with the Shield and their debuts. And also, you're introducing a new world title. You're trying to tell people it's of equal status and stature as the other world champion in Roman. So, I mean, I think that's all just stuff relevant to mention. It would look foolish if Roman wasn't brought up or the title wasn't brought up. I like the fact that, look, I like the attempt that they try to break this up in as many parts they did and try to occupy as much TV time as they did and try to tell stories of Seth Rollins' background. All that's good because we're all, I think, always in favor of the vignettes and the stories and backgrounds. I think it has to do because Seth's filming something right now, so the timing is what it is. But I'm going to be honest, I don't think that it's the greatest that in the last two Raws that lead up to what's supposed to be this really big deal of a crowning of a new world champion, that Seth's not there live when he is such a magnet performer to have the live crowd there singing his song and he gets the loudest pops of the night and you don't have that. That's a bit, I mean, that is certainly deflated what was already a questionable world championship crowning. And I got to be honest, it really. And again, I know if they're trying to do right by this guy who's one of their top guys, and he's got a Hollywood project. You want to let him do the thing. You got to try to keep the people happy, keep the locker room happy, keep your stars happy. But it's just not a good feel that he's just not there. It just doesn't feel the same. So.
We get real quick. Tyler Manning said Cody Rhodes, Becky Lynch, and Sami Zayn got the biggest pops, I'd say, to answer your question. Thanks for the shout out, by the way. Dom got big heat. Finn got a big pop as well. So always.
Tyler, did Bruce Boudreau, did the NHL coach who was sitting front row get any love?
But from anyone other than Justin.
Jimmy, this was as we go through this segment and as we wait for Tyler's response here. This kind of painted a picture for me, and maybe this is to what Justin was saying, but it kind of painted a picture to me that like things have just been horrible since Roman Reigns won the title. And I guess I get that if you're a wrestler in this show, but at the same time, if you want to be the best, isn't that the idea? You got to beat him for it. I get it. I don't know. I felt like I left feeling like I should be so bummed out that Roman Reigns is the champion and that it's been terrible times for the WWE the past 2 years.
Yeah, but that was, I think, the intent to make it feel like Roman Reigns is such a heel and he's holding the championships hostage, so to speak. I think that was the intent by these sit down interviews with Seth Rollins. But at the same time, I very much, like Justin said, appreciate the attempt for him to make this title feel so important and saying that Roman Reigns is not, your prototypical champion. He's hiding behind the titles, so to speak. But again, I agree with Justin. Not having him there and not having the audience react, because there were times tonight where this audience was a little quiet. But this would have been a perfect opportunity because Seth is one of those guys that generates a response wherever he goes. And that would have helped even more to make this feel that much more important. Again, hats off for them trying to make it feel like it's important, but at the same time, it's not there.
It is. I love Seth Rollins, and I'm just kind of being a jerk right here, but it is kind of a funny. He's like, listen, I'm going to be that guy who's always here. I'm going to be that guy that's here week in and week out doing this thing as your champion. cool. Can you help promote the show? Oh, no, I'm doing a movie. Can't be there. Can we pre-record something? Too busy. Can't make it.
Sorry, pal.
Sorry, pal. But I'll be that guy. I'll always be there. You'll never have to count me out, but I'm too busy. Can't make it this time. Next time. But Tyler Manning, by the way, saying he's a big fan of yours, Justin, a big fan of your guy, Spencer.
That's awesome. Good to hear.
So we go to Zoe Stark and Candice LeRae. We get a video package of Zoe Stark saying that she's going to tear everyone apart. And lo and behold, she does. She gets a pretty quick, convincing win over Candice LeRae. And Jimmy, to follow up with you real quick here, I love the fact that it was so simple. They did a vignette of her saying, I'm going to beat everyone up. And then she came out and she beat someone up. If I'm new to Zoe Stark, I get it.
I get it too, but I wish they didn't have to add that little extra tidbit with Nikki coming out and making things look like maybe Zoe might have, there was an opportunity for her to lose this match if it wasn't for Nikki, kind of messing things up for Candice. Let her come out, be dominant, give Candice her comeback, but still just beat her without the shenanigans. I think the shenanigans with Nikki was unnecessary.
Yeah. Justin, any takeaways on this one? And part two to the question, does Rhea Ripley being on the same brand put a ceiling on Zoe Stark?
That's an interesting way to word it. Yeah, I guess. Well, it depends. Yes, but it also is. Look, if I'm a female competing on Raw, I want to work to get TV time, and I want to thrive to get myself to have a title match with Rhea because of how hot she is. And again, you might know, I'm not in the position yet where I'm going to be beating Rhea, but as I said earlier, you could have a match with Rhea, you could lose, but you might come out of it still with your stock higher. So yeah, there might be a ceiling in the sense of, okay, look, I know the Office isn't taking, we all hear the scuttlebutt, Office isn't taking the title off her until next year's Mania at the early, whatever. But it still doesn't mean you don't want to thrive to get in the picture with her. And then you get in the picture with her, and if you can hold you hold your own and the crowd reacts a certain way, who knows? I like the vignettes. I like story. But I have to be honest, in general, I thought the crowd was just kind of at this. Maybe it's just, again, it's just kind of unknown. So that's tough for those ladies when you go out there if you're not getting much reaction. But I like what they're trying to do here with Zoe. But yeah, this was unfortunately, this was, and there was another women's segment later too. This was just kind of meh in terms of how it came across to the audience.
I think from the audience standpoint, it's pretty tough because Zoe's still new, so you're still figuring out who she is. And Candice, she's been around for a little bit, but she hasn't really had a chance to find footing to let us know who she is in a lot of ways too. So it's kind of a tough spot for the crowd to be in. But you make a good point, Justin. You've made me happy about the idea of Rhea Ripley and Zoe Stark on the same page, because I guess I could look back and say all the guys that were on the same roster as John Cena were probably pretty happy they got to have feuds with John Cena over the years. I'm sure Edge doesn't go, shucks, I had to be on the same show as John Cena. I'm sure he's I think he's okay with it looking back.
Ironically, I think Randy Orton back in the day, but I think Randy also would admit that he was in a less mature place. I think Randy at times tried to avoid being on the same show as Triple H after they broke from Evolution. But again, as I said, I think Randy would even admit he was in maybe a, not the most mature point of view. But,
right.
So what reference did I make? A Little Mermaid reference. Did I say something? Little Mermaid?
Blue Sunshine Studios. You're going to need to clarify which Little Mermaid reference.
Maybe,
I mean, my kid,
unintentional.
My kids do watch it, so it's very possible that it just subconsciously slipped something that came out, but I don't even know what did I say.
I think you said something about wanting to be part of her world or something like that.
It's a dingo hopper.
It's a dingo hopper. So we had a very short little segment here. I just wanted to touch on Ollie. He's getting interviewed, and I was kind of bummed out about this segment. He came out and he was taking what felt like a serious approach. He's saying, look, I know the positive Ali thing, whatever, but this is really important to me. And it got cut off and sort of put down and put in his place and sort of buried by Brock Lesnar. And it was Jimmy, I got a little chuckle out of it for sure. I'm not going to pretend like I'm above that. But at the same point, I was a little disappointed that it felt like he was going to become a true, like a serious contender, and they just kind of stepped on him.
Well, Brock is a different animal. He's a beast. And if you're trying to put him over as much as you are, I didn't have a problem with this as much as you did. I figured, Positive Ali, I guess, is going to be, unfortunately, fodder for Gunther.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way, at least that's the way I'm anticipating seeing it. Hopefully they prove me wrong, but I don't see him getting very much offense in. Let's put it that way. And if he does, I don't see Gunther selling it very much.
I guess, and that's my problem, Justin, I think, is I thought with this promo we were going to get a more feisty Ali that was going to put up a little bit more of a fight. I didn't think he was going to win, but I thought we were going to get more of a feisty one, where now I feel like, it looks like he's just going to get squashed.
Yeah, but look, it's all about doing business.
Mm-hmm.
And if in business the grand picture is we got a guy in Gunther who's the longest running champion in this century, and he's hot, if better business might be that he takes care of he takes care of his opponent in 3 minutes time and keeps on rolling. I don't know. I mean, who knows? But maybe Ali comes out there and gets maybe it's a match that they say, look, we're only giving you guys 8 minutes, but 6 of it is Gunther's on top. But there's that 2 minutes where Ali just shines. House of Fire really tries to give it his best, but Gunther's just too much. I mean, there's ways to orchestrate it depending on what the time they give it is. But yeah, there was a certain irony of Ali's cutting this promo of nobody believes I'm going to beat Gunther, and I'm tired of failure, and then Brock just bulldozes his way through and tells him to get a life kit like he's some kind of high school guidance counselor. So I don't know. I mean, it is what it is.
Well, we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. But a lot of people in the chat saying that they're here for baby. I say I'm here for a Gunther squash, and Dylan saying nobody should beat Gunther. Bernie pitching the idea of Matt Riddle versus Gunther. It's been long enough. We can call him Gunther now. Come on. Yeah. So I don't know. I think Gunther's going to win, and I'm happy with that. We got the Alpha Academy versus the Viking Raiders, and we got "We Want Otis" chants, and Alpha Academy eventually gets to win. Tyler, were those real chants? Was he really over? Was he getting those chants as loud as he was? Because you didn't mention his name, but I was like, man, this crowd is behind Otis today. In fact, Justin, I was going to say, heavy machinery, Otis, standout. With Mandy Rose, Otis was a standout. Alpha Academy is bad guys. Otis is the standout. Now, Otis, they're good guys with Maxine Dupree, and Otis is still the standout. Like, what is Otis's ceiling? I mean, I feel like every position you put him in, he just wins the crowd over.
Well, he has a charisma. He does. He has a. It's funny because I know he's from Wisconsin, and I know that he was a fan of this person. I'm pretty sure I know this to be true. And that is Chris Farley, and that's the comparisons he gets. He's the big guy. He's the I don't like to use the word, but whatever. He's the fat guy. He's the funny comedic fat guy who's put in these Chippendale situations why is he in them? But he excels at them. And it's an entertainment business. It's charisma. And I mean, he can still do things in the ring. It's not like he's fee-fi-fo-fum, dumb in the ring. He does the worm or the caterpillar, whatever the hell he calls it. And he's athletic. Is he ever going to be the world champion that they're flying to the Today Show the night after Mania on the private jet? I don't know about that, but yeah, I mean, he thrives in any situation they put him in, and that says something. When you can be a chameleon in the bizarro WWE world of what you might get told to do and sell and make seem appealing, that's a talent that takes you a long way and can provide you some job security and longevity if you embrace it and you don't complain about it. So it seems like he does that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, say what you will, Justin, but you just sold me on some sit-down interviews like Seth Rollins had, but with Otis. And a deep dive into who Otis is as a person. Jimmy, your thoughts on Alpha Academy, obviously, but also Viking Raiders. Are they destined to be the guys that lose to the guys?
It feels that way, but that's what, Alpha Academy felt that way too. And then they get the big win tonight, and people, are like, "This is a new beginning. Oh, this is great." You know what I mean? And I know people are going to have an issue with the roll up finish, which a lot of times I do. But when it's done in a way where it just doesn't look like a roll, it was an O'Connor roll with a bridge.
Yeah. So
at least it looked like there was effort there. There was wrestling move as opposed to just a plain old small package kind of thing. But like I was saying, the Viking Raiders are a team that could use a big win to help them. But at the same time, I don't think they lost any heel momentum here. They're just, I think people are more happier that Alpha Academy got the win than are upset that the Viking Raiders took the loss.
Yeah. I'll say this. I got to say this as far as the finish goes. When you're a character like Chad Gable, whose whole thing is you're a amateur wrestling background, wrestling superstar, and you do an O'Connor roll, I feel like that doesn't count as a roll up. I feel like that counts as using your type of wrestling to get a win.
Shoot wrestling move.
Yeah. I don't. I don't know. I feel like you get away with it that way. It feels more like that he was just doing his thing. It's like when Moxley wins with like an arm bar or something that's outside of what he usually wins with. It's kind of his thing though.
If only AEW had 1 million national champion NCAA wrestlers to qualify to use the roll up.
Yes, that's all they should hire now. By the way, John Jordan, I see your super chat. I'm going to get to it in just a second here. We did already talk about that part, but I'm going to save it for when we talk about Miley's chat as well. We'll lump them together. Any quick thoughts on the Jinder Mahal video? I don't think there's really much to take away, but either of you guys have thoughts on that?
No, just another team, and I think they're doing it right because they're taking their time. They're not, just throwing them out there. We did see a match with them last week, if I'm not mistaken. But now let's hear from them. Let Jinder be the mouthpiece. I think they're doing it right with them. Take your time. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah, I'm glad they gave us a little quick vignette because, like Jimmy said, we saw a match last week, so it would have been a little weird if they were completely absent this week. Just something small like that, just keeps momentum, keeps them being featured.
I do hope the guys keep the suits look as opposed to the monster look that they kind of seem to do, because I'm not a fan of the roar big guy. Like, be cool looking. I don't know. They look cool in the suits. Shinsuke Nakamura and Finn Balor, a dream match if there ever was one on Raw. Damian Priest is upset with Shinsuke for costing him a shot at the title. Shinsuke doesn't seem to care, though. Finn says, if you disrespect one of us, you disrespect all of us. So we get a match. It's a good one. It's fun. It ends when Shinsuke attacks Priest on the outside, and the distraction allows Finn to get the win, essentially. Justin, this was I feel like this could have been a pay-per-view main event when you look at the people involved. But my question to you is, it feels like Damian Priest is going to end up moving on to have a rivalry with Shinsuke. Do you think Finn is moving on to something bigger? Do you think he's maybe a contender for that world title after this, or after Night of Champions?
If anything, I kind of actually go a little bit reverse. I know that Finn had the bigger match at WrestleMania. Well, Damian didn't have a match at all. I know that Finn had had the match with Edge, but then Priest obviously had the huge match with Bad Bunny at Backlash. To me, I think there's more momentum in Priest. If anything, again, if we're looking towards the Money in the Bank, to me, Priest is the one that I put in that. Not a knock to Finn, but if you're asking me to kind of book them, I don't know how much longer this thing goes with Shinsuke between him and Finn, or maybe Damian has a quick little whatever with Shinsuke. But to me, I think Damian's the guy who I think he's elevated his stock to where he's the most legitimate threat to potentially, if he has that Money in the Bank briefcase, oh boy, And I want to say this too, the fact that we have Finn taking on Shinsuke and Priest is out there, and then we have Dom later in a different match, and then of course Rhea has whatever she ever has in terms of Natalya or whatever females come after her. I love that. One of my booking pet peeves in the last 20 years is we have a faction, and the entire faction, normally 4 people, right? 4 or 5 people. The entire faction has to just feud all with the same person.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no. If that faction gets established enough, which Judgment Day is, I want the faction to be able to like have 1 or 2 or 3 different opponents or things going on. It's so much better creatively. Obviously, it just gives you more content, but it's also, if that faction's actually over, which Judgment Day is over, it gives more people the rub to work with them. But WWE gets in a weird habit in the past years of where, like, all the Wyatt family had to just focus on this one guy. All the Hurt Business had to focus on this one guy. All of whoever. So I love the fact that Judgment Day at any time right now has 3 different opponents, maybe on a night, that they're all dealing with. And they back each other up and they do the heel thing, which is to cheat and a numbers game. But I really love that because it's just so much better. You have this roster, utilize it. Don't make this faction of 4 focus on one person.
Yeah, because when that happens too, it usually just turns out to be 3 cannon fodder guys that just get beat up, and then the one that gets a shot in.
That and real quick, sorry, Jimmy, before Jimmy goes, that and the other thing, not to pick on them, but it's just the most relevant and obvious, or most relevant and obvious current situation to give. AEW, they try to have a faction feud with multiple people, but their response to it is just, well, let's just take those other people that are feuding that one faction. We just have to make them all together. Mm-hmm. And it's like, no, that's not necessarily always going to work. You don't need not everybody needs to pair together. Like, I don't know. The way they're doing with Judgment Day, my point is really well done, I think.
Well, it's smart because I think with the comparison is Judgment Day looks like a group. I think if you just saw like a video game with the roster page, I'd be like, oh, those 4 people look like they're friends. Where I think sometimes AEW will go, here's a group of 6 people, but it's just kind of a random, you look at the firm and like Big Bill doesn't look like he hangs out with Lee Moriarty, right. Or whoever, and, Isaiah Cassidy, like those groups don't,
right.
I think I jumped groups there, but you know what I mean? Like there's that, which is actually the point. Like it makes it hard to remember, like who's in what group, what's this? Where? Yeah, Judgment Day. Sorry, Jimmy, is the they're clearly a group, whether you've never watched wrestling before or not. Like, yeah, clearly these guys all hang out. But Jimmy, go ahead.
No, but like you guys said, you can have them feud with different people. It doesn't have to be a feud with a complete other faction, because as we see them throughout the night, Damian Priest will be interviewed and cut a promo or something on his own. Then it's Dom and Rhea together, doing their own thing, but they're still part of the group. And same with Finn Balor, having the match against Shinsuke, doing his thing, but still part of the group. It doesn't have to be us versus them all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I do want to say I love that they use some Raw Talk footage for this as well. It makes Raw Talk feel like something you should tune into. And Justin, to your point about Damian Priest, I actually agree with you. The only reason I say Finn for the world title is because Finn beat Shinsuke, where it feels like Priest still has unfinished business with Shinsuke. But maybe Shinsuke is who Priest beats to ramp him up for the title. I don't know, but
yeah, maybe. I mean, look, I think you can make an argument. This would be a compelling thread through Raw. They're starting the Money in the Bank qualifying matches next Monday. They confirmed that tonight. Excuse me. I think that would be a compelling thread to have. Look, Priest, Finn, and Dom, all 3 in qualifying matches, because they all 3 deserve it. Right? I mean, all 3 of them deserve it. So I think to angle the qualifying matches to make them more interesting is, oh my God, we have 3 qualifying matches tonight on Raw. All 3 have the Judgment Day involved. What if all 3 male members of the Judgment Day, like 3 of them in the same Money in the Bank ladder match? That could be a whole lot of dominance, or could it be a little dissension? I love the idea.
Oh, and you could play with that so much. Could you imagine, like Finn and Dom climbing the ladder at the same time, and they look at each other, but then someone else knocks it over before you see whether or not they fight for it or
exactly.
whatever,
Or if you have Finn, Dom, and Priest in the Money in the Bank ladder match, the actual ladder match on the pay-per-view, but then there's Mommy, who's the wild card, and we think we know who Mommy's going to help.
Do we, though? That's
exactly. Do we?
So good
Is
stuff.
somebody else other than Dom hitting with Mama? We don't know.
So we get a tag team match, or not a tag team match. We get a singles match between two tag team people. Raquel Rodriguez takes on Sonya Deville. It's a quick win for Rodriguez. We get a beatdown post-match, but Shotzi comes to make the save. Later, they say they're going to have each other's back, and they'll walk out as the new tag team champions. Jimmy, this feels like a seamless way to pair up Rodriguez and, I guess, knit up that issue.
No, absolutely. And like you said, seamless. It was easy. It was simple for people to digest and understand. And it worked. Again, it worked. It got people going, oh, this is an interesting pairing. Yep. So I thought it was just fine. But I don't know how much more you can say. I thought the match was fairly quick, and Raquel showed her dominance again. She's a wonderful talent. Now she has a tag team partner, and like you said, seamless, simple, easy to understand, and easy to digest.
And Maya Lee with a super chat, who's been super patient. Thank you so much for hanging in there. Said, I love how Chelsea, Sonya, and Shotzi came from the same Tough Enough season. I'd rather see Raquel with Zelina. Glad to see Maxine and Gable on the same page. So a lot of support for the women's division there for Maya Lee, and they did a great job.
Shotzi was in that Tough Enough class? I
wasn't sure about that, but I just... I don't remember, but I figured if she said it, I was just going to roll with it. But yeah, Justin, I let me ask you this: with this 4-way tag team match for the new titles here, and Shotzi filling in for Liv, this is kind of interesting to me because if they win, what happens when Liv comes back? If they lose, I feel like it's an interesting situation with what do you do with Raquel in this situation now that she has a new tag team partner? Do you put her back in a tag team? Do you break her free now? What do you do here with Raquel Rodriguez?
That's a good question. I'm a huge fan of Raquel, so that's a great question. But I also think that part of the magic that made it was that while Raquel is this rising star, Liv really has this underground organic following and is over. So that when you lose her, Shotzi doesn't have that. So as much as I hate to see it from my girl Raquel, I tend to think that maybe this is where you got to call the audible and say, okay, the tag titles are better on Ronda and Shayna, or let's go to Chelsea and Sonya, who nobody can stand right now. I just having just the kind of the quick recovery and just, okay, we're going to pair Shotzi with Raquel. I don't know if I would just go right back to that then. I just, given the titles, I think you might be better serve Raquel or Shayna and Ronda, or again, like I said, Chelsea and Sonya, something else there. But in the end of the day, I hope that this doesn't derail Raquel too much. If that in fact is how it goes, if that's how it goes down, and if she's not tag team champions with Shotzi, I hope she doesn't get derailed. Again, I can't say enough. I think Raquel Rodriguez has got a ton of potential in that women's division. There's still things that have to be fostered and developed and whatever, but I think she's got a ton of potential. So
yeah, Raquel to me is world champion caliber. Like, she's someone who could be at the top of the division, no problem. I have always seen it, and no disrespect to the tag team championships, but I always felt like the tag team championships for her were sort of a holding position because you don't want to rush her to Raquel versus Rhea just yet. But if Raquel's a solo person, then what are we doing? She should be going for the title. So
the key has to be, whatever they decide to do, whether she has the tag titles or not, the key has to be Raquel needs to stay on TV. Raquel needs to continue being developed, because if you time it out right, and if I'm forecasting what I think I'm seeing that's going to happen with her, you could get around to next year's Rumble, and Raquel could be somebody that wins that Rumble, that challenges a Rhea Ripley. And we talked about ceilings earlier, but we could be going to Mania going, it might be Raquel's time. And at that point, Rhea, her stock is just so golden that it would be such a big deal if Raquel, what I mean? But they can't let Liv's injury derail all that. They have to find a way to keep Raquel on TV and keep her interesting and develop. So I'm watching Raquel more than I'm watching where the damn tag titles are, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we move on to a couple of folks. Oh, actually, I had a super chat from John Jordan I was going to get to. Triple J back again late on this, but Reed Ricochet did make me think Reed Braun way too soon for that. That's pay-per-view, maybe even Mania. No, Reed's great. Yeah, John, we actually talked about that a little bit. I would love to, the old Big E special, meaty men slapping meat.
No, I could see that happening down the road. I don't know if it'll wait till Mania, but there's no rush.
Yeah. They've got plenty of time. But we go back to a couple of other individuals that held the women's tag team championships, or actually Trish didn't. This was a segue to Trish and Becky, but I realized that Trish wasn't one of them. In any case, Trish wants a no-touch policy at the contract signing, but Adam Pearce says no. At the signing, Trish says contract signings are happening in the women's division because of her, and she's still number one. Becky says Trish is worried about being forgotten and she's not as good as people remember her being, then rhymes and invokes the dog barking memories. Jimmy, Adam Pearce is complaining that it's chaos everywhere. People are getting hurt, but then he refuses to make no-touch policies. I mean, shouldn't that just be implied in the workplace, Jimmy? Like, I didn't understand why. I get why, but at the from a show standpoint, but from a logic standpoint, why are you saying it's okay for them to beat each other up before the show?
Yeah, I get exactly what you're saying. It's because it's the old adage, you don't give in to the request of the heel, so to speak. And I get that, but at the same time, all these, it's implying that this contract signing is going to end like 99.9% of the contract signing, where it's going to end a physical melee in the ring of some sort. So I guess that's what they wanted to. They wanted to imply that was going to happen. And as we saw, we didn't really get it other than Trish flipping the table over and kind of leaving, but we didn't get them having any physical altercation with each other and saving it for the Night of Champions, which I enjoyed. And it was very interesting that Trish was mentioned several times that this is happening because of her. The women's division is where it is because of her, but she has never been part of a contract signing in the ring. It's just, she should have said out here in public, because when she says, I've never been part of a contract signing, what, you've never signed a contract?
All handshakes, Jimmy.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Just the wording was a little bit, but other than that, I got what she was trying to say. But I like the fact that there's no physical altercation, despite the fact that Adam Pearce wouldn't put it in place, so to speak.
Yeah, again, I get it, but it was just one of those, kind of like the I've never signed a contract thing. I was like, that sounds silly, but I get what you're saying. Justin, something that Becky said was that she's not as good. Trish isn't as good as people remember. I'm going to go on record. I feel like I think this run makes me think she's better than I remember. I think she's absolutely crushing it here. I get they were talking trash, but just to bring up I feel like she's. I want her to be the champ. I think she could. I don't know how she'll go in the ring, but Trish Stratus is killing it, in my opinion.
Yeah, first off, I thought the same thing to the contract wording. I've never had a contract. I was just like, all right, Trish Stratus, Hall of Famer. You've been hot dog and a handshake your whole career. It's just funny wording. Man, I'm kind of torn. And look. They try. She took a shot at Becky. Took the broken nose for you to get over. Becky calling the shot of her barking like a look. I was a teenage boy there live in DC in 2001 when Mr. McMahon made Trish strip down and bark like a dog. I was there. I was like 10 rows back. It's a memory, and as a wrestling fan, you don't get rid of. I like to say that I was more enlightened than I was picketing for the disgraceful. But no, I was hooting and hollering that Trish was in her thong.
Right.
100 feet from me.
Yeah.
So,
and people who say they weren't, you're liars.
I know. I didn't. I'm not going to even call this person. I don't have my Twitter in front of me. Somebody. I tweeted the memory that I was in DC for that famous Raw, and somebody replied to me that didn't sit well with me, whatever. And I just remember I was going to reply to him well, I wish I could say the same, but I was just a, revved up youngster that was, whatever.
Yeah.
I sorry, I was not as enlightened as then as I am now.
Right, yeah.
Jack, I'm torn. I don't know. Becky Lynch is Becky Lynch. She is the man, and Trish Stratus is Trish Stratus. But I don't know. This segment it's still maybe the crowd reaction not being there. This just did not fire on all the cylinders that I needed it to. It is very cool from a PR standpoint. They're going to have the match, and they're one of, I think, 3 women's matches this Saturday in Saudi Arabia. So how far we've come in a very relative short time in this cultural progressive experiment that WWE's trying to do with these shows in Saudi Arabia. Politics aside, leave it alone. That's not what we're here for. It's cool that's the thing. But I just don't feel it. I just don't, despite the cool sound bites that they each said tonight, there's still something about this match that feels forced, and I'm trying to get behind it, but I'm not there. I'm not. And they tried tonight. I don't think it's on the women. I don't think it's on either of them. But I'm just, something about the build has just not got me there the way I wish I was. So I'm not gonna fake praise here and say that it was a tremendous segment, because I don't think it really was.
Well, and you got Justin, also Justin, me Justins are in this together, says they agree. And then Tutcraft with an interesting point. When a promo exchange ends with the B word, it feels contrived. I don't know. I guess, do you think maybe it's because we kind of saw this coming a mile away, and so now they're doing it, it just feels like we're going through the motions instead of it feeling like an emotional, like finally they're going to go at it?
Well, I think to the comment of when a women's promo ends with the B word, that is interesting. It's the word that you can get away with saying, and that WWE is obviously okay, and USA is okay with them saying, and so it's like a very easy low hanging fruit word to throw out as a trash talk for females to females. But I guess it's weird because in male trash talk, if a guy to another guy is not going to call somebody the B word, they're going to call them something, but they're going to call them something that you can't say on USA. They're going to call them an MFer. They're going to call them some other derogatory words and names that obviously we're not going to say on USA and we're not going to say here. So I guess to that point, it is a little bit like it's like a forced, oh, we can pump out the B word. Call her the B word. That's what every girl calls other girl, right? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get what you're saying there. I really love Trish in this segment, and I feel like I'm always hard on Becky Lynch, but I feel like I don't know. I feel like Trish is crushing it. I feel like Becky Lynch is doing fine for me, but I really feel like I want to see Trish. Like I want to see Trish face Bianca Belair now. I want to see her go on and have title matches, and I don't know. I guess with Becky, like this is supposed to be a big, serious build up to facing your idol, who was the greatest of all time in your opinion, and you're coming out with silly glasses, and you're still trying to talk like you're tough, like leaning back and like but you've got these goofy glasses on your face, and it's like, are you taking this seriously or are you not taking it seriously? I guess that's what doesn't hit with me for this rivalry. Is it what she's saying isn't matching with how she's acting.
It's almost like she's trying to be the female version of her husband, but in this case it's not working, because what Seth is doing kind of feels like him. You know what I mean? This feels like Becky trying to imitate and be similar to what he's doing. Maybe that's why it's not working.
Jimmy, you might have solved the formula here, because you're right. When Becky got the most organically over, when the man run really started, there was no stupid costumes or whatever. And they reference, she was out there bloody nose, and she's out there like. So I think you might be right. There might be something to that. It might be a little bit of like, okay, why are you dressing like you're like on a red carpet challenge? But also trying to sell me as being a tough badass. Like, no, just let me see your face. Yeah,
because the promo she actually cut on Trish was good, but like you said, this is what you're seeing. Do you know what I mean? You're seeing, and people are focusing on that as opposed to listening and hearing and saying, "Oh,
yeah." So that to me is where it fell off. But I love Trish still. Trish was great. I'm gonna.
Saudi Arabia is not ready for Trish.
She's from Toronto. Yeah.
no one's ready for Trish. We got a quick question before we move on to the next thing. Shano17 says a question for Jimmy. What's your favorite hardcore match you ever reffed? Also, do you guys think Cody versus Brock 2 should be an Extreme Rules type match?
Okay.
Jimmy, that's for you, so I'll let you take the whole thing.
Oh, well, I have a 1A and a 1B. 1A was the Hardcore Battle Royal at WrestleMania 2000 in LA because I was getting heckled from behind by Michael Clark Duncan. and it was driving me crazy. And I turned around to say something and I looked and I went, Green Mile guy, but it doesn't get much better than counting that quiet pin in the APA office for Gerald Briscoe over Crash Holly. That was a lot of fun.
Jimmy, just curious, what were you going to say to the heckler before you realized it was Michael Clark? Rest in peace, Michael Clark.
Basically, yes. Basically, I was going to turn around and say, hey, quiet, I'm working here, something like that. And then when I turned around, I saw, and then it's funny because after the show, I was out back, I was on the phone talking to my wife, and here he comes walking up. And I said, oh my God, hold on, honey, because Michael Clark, he goes, hey, man, and he was really friendly and just, hey, I hope I didn't bother you too much. I said, no, it was actually kind of cool getting heckled by you and stuff like that. He says, who are you talking to? I said, my wife. He goes, give me the phone. I said, what? He says, Mrs. Referee. And he started talking to Audra. And I'm like, what the heck? Yeah. And she goes, who was that? I said, it was Michael Clark Duncan. She goes, pardon me? She goes, get out of here. I said, I wouldn't lie. What the heck?
Yeah, Justin, I was going to say, Jimmy wasn't going to say anything because even before he saw, Michael Clark Duncan's voice, he's like, hey, referee. What, like this, right? He's got one of those super deep voices. I'm sure I wouldn't have talked crap either.
I had the barricade and security.
We got a couple quick things before we wrap up the show here. We got a Kathy Kelly interview with Apollo Crews, who gets cut off by Ripley, who calls out Natalya. That match is set. It leads to a match with Dom later in the night. During the match, Apollo Crews puts up an impressive fight, but Ripley's on the outside, causes Crews to almost lose via 10 count. But even though he gets in the ring, he still gets frog splashed and loses. Justin, this is something we talked about before. Instead of just the cheap win, let the bad guy hit his finish and then move on.
Yeah, I almost thought maybe I would have rather, because they're trying to build Apollo back up and this and that. And look, Apollo, I almost would have rather if they just ended on a count out. Because Apollo would have been counted out because of Rhea, because of her dominance of what she just did. And it makes Dom looks that much more slimy, and Dom needs mommy. And so I didn't love Apollo diving back in at 9 just to be a dead frog to lay there to then get frog splashed onto. I just, hindsight booking 2020 as we have it, the luxury to do on this podcast. I would have I think a count out would have accomplished the same thing, and it would have protected Apollo. But.
Jimmy, you agree?
No, I do agree. I get trying to be a little bit creative with the finish for the heels and having them, get a little assistance in the win. But the count out was the perfect assistance. And having Dom count along and going to 10 and doing the over exaggerated motions like a referee would have been perfect.
Did Apollo Crews win you over if you'd never seen him before? And this was your first time seeing him. Has he done enough to win you over? And if not, what would you like to see out of him?
Obviously, there's, as Justin mentioned before, I like to say getting over without going over. It was against Dominic, and Dominic has natural heat right now. He's just a heat magnet, let's put it that way. And I don't think he did enough to get himself over here because people wanted to see Dom lose so bad that they didn't care how much offense Apollo was getting in, if you get my meaning. Mm-hmm. So yeah, Apollo is the kind of guy that he speaks well. He's great in the ring. He just needs at this point, he's one of those few guys out there that kind of need a win here to help elevate him.
Yeah. Something to get him. I don't know if this was the best start for him to take a loss to Dom, but we'll see where it goes. We get to the finals here. The final of the show. Sammy, KO, and Riddle take on Imperium. Of course, at the start of the show, Imperium tried to gang up 3-on-2, but Riddle came out to even the odds, and he turns out to be the mystery partner for their 6-man tag. We get a little more serious Matt Riddle promo throughout the show, a little video package, I should say. At one point, match starts. It's a banger, of course. Teamwork makes the dream work, and the good guys get the win. Justin, any thoughts on this one? Any takeaways other than the little send home match?
No, it was a great final, main event match. It really was. I love the dominance that Imperium is showing. It's kind of interesting. Imperium is being dominant now on Raw with Judgment Day still there. I like it. I do. And then KO, Sammy, and Riddle. As you mentioned, the Riddle vignette was good earlier. This was a very entertaining, send the crowd home happy, but also accomplishes a go home Raw situation since KO and Sammy have a very big match at Night of Champions. I have no complaints about that. I think they hit everything they needed to hit here. Imperium loses, but I in no way feel like Imperium's stock has been harmed. That's kind of the thing about Imperium, is that like together as a unit it looked good, but it's still known. Gunther's who matters. Kaiser and Giovanni, they're going to be the ones that are always going to take the pins, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah, definitely I get what you're saying. Almost like it reminds me of like Legacy in a way, where Randy Orton was the guy, and of course Cody and DiBiase were cool, but when they were as the 6-man tags, those guys were going to be the ones taking the loss, so that someone could get one over on Randy without Randy losing a match. Right. My question, Jimmy, to you is, I left this show more interested in the idea of Matt Riddle versus Gunther than Ali versus Gunther, but it's going to be Ali versus Gunther this weekend. Was that a miscalculation by WWE, or do you think that they're just saying Ali's going to get beat at Night of Champions and then we're going to move on to something else?
I don't think it's a miscalculation. I think it's a good idea not to have this match happen just yet. Yes, it would have been on the big stage there, but at the same time, this is a story that needs to be drawn out and take time to be told. It's not one of those ones like this one here with Ali, which I think is going to be a quick story. It's going to be done and that's it. And I hate, no disrespect to Positive Ali, but at the same time, I think, after this weekend, that's it for him and his IC title opportunities. So this is a good step to plant seeds for the next opponent to possibly look like that he has a chance of beating Gunther for the IC championship.
It was interesting to Adam's point here that last week they were like, who's the mystery partner going to be? And I was like, oh, yeah, it's the guy they've been teaming with regularly. I get you want us to tune in to find out, but also felt a little bit like an AEW special announcement. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't really need to make that big point. You could have just said it.
Everybody kind of figured, I guess, but at the same time, people say, wait, it's probably going to be Matt Riddle, but if it isn't, who could it be? That's how I left it, but. Yeah. In any case, that was the show, our go-home show before the Raw go-home show before Night of Champions. Before we sign off, Justin, and everyone in the chat, by the way, let me know your final thoughts on the show and your rankings or whatever. Justin, your final thoughts and where the world can find you online.
Yeah, it was an okay show. It wasn't their best, but it's a go-home show, so you have certain limitations because you're not going to start advancing things. You're going to stay within the bounds of promoting to this event, which is Saturday's Night of Champions. I think if you look at the Night of Champions card, there's a lot of intrigue up and down. So that's good on them. So overall, okay show. Not the most exciting 3 hours, but it was what it was because that's what your ability to do. So I'm excited I'll be really excited this time next week if it's the three of us after Raw, as we will now be on the road to Money in the Bank. We'll be coming off of Night of Champions, where we're at, and I have a lot of questions about where things will be. So that's a good thing. So tune in next Monday. We'll all be have a lot to talk about next Monday.
Absolutely. And Jimmy, how about you? What's your final thoughts, and where can the world find you online?
Oh, I thought it was again, going into the pay-per-view or premium live event. See, up here it's still a pay-per-view in Canada. You get it on the network. We still have the WWE network up here. So
So jealous.
I'm happy they tried to make it feel more relevant, and there was some stuff that I enjoyed. But the only thing is, at the beginning of the show, they tried to cram so much stuff in before the first commercial break. It almost felt like I had to say it at least once a night, 20 pounds of potatoes in a 10-pound bag, which is usually on Wednesday nights. They were falling into that formula because they started off the night with the beatdown of Cody. Then they went right to the ring with Paul. And then, KO and Sammy come out. And then all this stuff is going on. And they didn't let anything settle and breathe.
Well, and I wonder, Jimmy, if that was done intentionally, because they were up against a lot of sports competition tonight. The Lakers were down 3 games, facing a sweep elimination, which I guess I could say this way. Spoiler alert: they lost. They got swept.
Yeah,
which is crazy. So that they're going up against that. You're a hockey guy. The Florida Panthers and Carolina Hurricanes tonight. Yeah, so they were going up against a lot tonight. So I wonder if they were purposely trying to stack certain things.
I get it, but at the same time, they do the same things every week. They lead right into it, and then they have the introduction. They have Ricochet come out, then they go to a commercial break, and when they come back, they don't do right to the match. They have a video package, a vignette, so something has to change.
Yeah. This episode felt really long to me. I don't know if there's a lot of stuff I didn't like. Like, there's not anything I'd go, oh, this was terrible. But I did feel like as I was going through, I was like, man, this show's feeling kind of long. And I saw I was only halfway through. I was like, oh, geez, we're only halfway through. And I feel like this is getting kind of long. So I don't know if it was the way, to your point, Jim, I think it was the way it was structured. Just, it felt like, because there's so much stuff happening, it felt like, are we done yet?
But other than that, where you can find me is here with you guys on Monday nights, and then on Wednesday nights it's myself, Justin, and Issa, usually covering AEW Dynamite. You can check out the Reffing It Up podcast with my good brother in stripes, Brian Hebner, and I, and our host RJ, as we have different topics every week. And believe it or not, this week we'll be talking to none other than Raj Giri.
Ooh, that'll be a spicy one, Raj Giri. Tell him to break some news for you.
Yeah.
Retirement Raj.
Retirement Raj. Yeah.
Old,
and then, of course,
Raj Funk.
Yeah. And here on all my social media platforms, catching my ref and rant on the week every day for 5 days a week from Monday to Friday, making little critiques, not to tear down, just to help tighten the screws, in my opinion.
And, of course, thank you to everyone who's in the chat. Tut Graf, Ethan Cruz, Dream Realm Studios, Nelly Belly, Baby Ice, Huffman Elite Training, Tommy O, Dylan Matthews, JT098, Adam Staples, and everyone else, Ricky. Thank you guys so much for joining. Ethan Cruz, Dream Realm Studios. Thanks for joining us. You can find me at Real Jack Farmer across all social media. And Tommy O saying, great show, fellas. Going to be at All or Nothing Double or Nothing in Vegas this Sunday. Yeah, if you see me, come say hello. Say, hey, Jack, I'm Tommy O from the Wrestling Inc. show. And I'll be like, oh, sweet, let's grab a picture together. I love getting photos with folks. So come say hello. I'll be at Double or Nothing, and I got a press pass, so I'm going to be there. I'm going to say, hey, here's a question that's going to shake the world, and I'm going to hold my microphone out, and we'll see what they say. I don't know what my questions are because I don't know who I'm talking to yet. It'll be a total train wreck. You're going to want to check it out, but also
just
make sure.
Ask about CM Punk.
There you go.
Say hard, Jack. Just have your CM Punk bullet loaded in the chamber.
I want to ask
what
about.
Could go wrong?
Yeah, I don't want to get in trouble. I got a few people I want to ask CM Punk about. No, I'm not going to. But anyways, tune into the show. Tune into the after shows here, though, on Wrestling Inc. Follow at Wrestling Inc. All that good stuff. That does it for us, folks. We will see you next time for the NXT after show tomorrow right here